Why does a crispy piece of meat possess the superpower to make your brain explode with pure joy, while a high-tech space balloon floats 15 miles above the blue planet holding a fast food order captive? True story. A major fast food giant launched a fried chicken sandwich into the stratosphere using a high-altitude space balloon, letting it drip through the freezing, hostile vacuum of space before parachuting it back down to dry land. Did someone actually eat that cosmic bird after it touched down? Or, did it just become the most expensive piece of space junk in culinary history? Well, today is July 6th. Across the nation, millions of hungry souls are ritualistically shoving greasy, golden poultry down their throats to celebrate National Fried Chicken Day. But before you order a 10-piece bucket to celebrate this glorious day of grease, you need to understand something. This mouth-watering comfort food is built on a foundation of extreme historical chaos, heavy cultural plot twists, and some downright unhinged physics. When you look at that bucket of golden perfection on your kitchen table, you're not just looking at dinner, you are staring directly into a historical mirror, one that reflects centuries of migration, struggle, and accidental scientific discoveries. The stratospheric stunt sounds like a multi-million-dollar fever dream cooked up by a corporate marketing department that had completely lost its mind. But it perfectly illustrates the length humanity will go to glorify this specific combination of poultry and hot fat. The sandwich was strapped into a custom climate-controlled flight capsule equipped with HD cameras, tracking devices, and a gold-plated framework designed to withstand brutal atmospheric pressure drops. It ascended through the troposphere, pushing past the clouds into the dark, silent realm of the upper atmosphere, where temperatures plummet to a catastrophic -60 degrees Fahrenheit. For several hours, this humble combination of breaded chicken, pickles, and mayo hung suspended against the curvature of the earth, a lone culinary pioneer drifting where only elite astronauts and multi-billion-dollar satellites normally dare to tread. The sheer absurdity of sending a fried chicken sandwich into space highlights a deeper truth. Our collective obsession with this food is absolute, unhinged, and deeply embedded in our global cultural DNA. You see, most people think this crispy masterpiece is as American as apple pie, but that is a massive historical lie, one that will make you question everything you know about Southern cooking. The absolute shocker here? The original concept of deep frying chicken came from Scottish immigrants. They arrived in the American South with the bizarre, almost inexplicable habit of dunking entire birds into boiling vats of pure pig fat without a single grain of salt, pepper, or seasoning. Imagine the sheer horror of biting into a golden, crispy crust only to realize it tastes like nothing but hot lard and wet cardboard. The Scottish Highlanders were legendary for their toughness on the battlefield, but their utter disregard for basic seasoning in the kitchen was nothing short of a human rights violation against taste buds. They simply heated up massive iron cauldrons over open wood fires, rendered down massive blocks of unflavored animal fat, and threw the poultry inside until the exterior turned a rigid, pale golden color. There was no flour dredging, no buttermilk soaking, and absolutely no culinary joy involved. It was a purely efficient, industrial method of cooking meat, designed to fuel weary travelers and rugged laborers who cared significantly more about basic caloric intake than enjoying their dinner. This bleak, flavorless tradition was carried across the Atlantic and planted firmly into the soil of the early American colonies, threatening to doom generations of future diners to a lifetime of culinary sadness. But then, look, came the ultimate historical plot twist that completely rescued the American palate. Enslaved West African cooks took this fundamentally broken Scottish cooking method, looked at that tragic, unseasoned meat, and decided to completely reinvent the game. Aha! They introduced a powerhouse lineup of cayenne pepper, paprika, garlic, and wild herbs. These brilliant, unrecognized culinary geniuses possessed an incredibly sophisticated understanding of spice blending and flavor profiles, inherited from generations of West African traditions that utilized rich, complex stews and heavily seasoned grains. When they were forced to work in southern plantation kitchens, they observed that tragic Scottish method of boiling birds in lard and realized it was a blank canvas crying for help. So they began experimenting in secret, utilizing whatever scraps of spices and wild plants they could forage, cultivate in their small garden plots, or trade for in local markets. They systematically dismantled the European approach to meat preparation, introducing the crucial technique of marinating the poultry in highly acidic seasoned liquids like buttermilk, wild vinegar, or fermented juices long before it ever touched the hot fat. This crucial step didn't just tenderize the notoriously tough heritage breeds of fowl available at the time, but it actually ensured that the flavor profile penetrated deep past the skin and straight into the absolute core of the muscle tissue. They built the entire foundation of what we now recognize as authentic Southern fried chicken, transforming a greasy Scottish disaster into the legendary heavily spiced comfort food that people now fight over in fast food drive-thrus every single week. But getting that perfect, ear-shattering crunch isn't just about throwing a bird into hot grease and hoping for the best. In fact, most backyard cooks fail miserably because they don't understand the brutal, unforgiving science of the frying pan. If you think making good fried chicken is just a matter of tossing some legs in flour and dropping them into a random pot of hot oil, well, you are cruising down a direct highway toward a culinary disaster. The first massive mistake people make is not seasoning the meat early enough. You cannot just sprinkle salt on the outside at the very end and expect a miracle. No way. True masters know you have to hit that meat with salt hours in advance, forcing a biological process called reverse osmosis to kick in. This draws the flavor deep into the muscle fibers while completely altering the protein structure so the chicken can actually lock in its juices when it hits the heat. When you apply salt to the exterior of raw poultry, it initially draws out moisture through the surface as the system attempts to balance the sodium concentration. However, if you give it enough time, that salty liquid dissolves the surface proteins, specifically one called myosin. This breaks down the tight cellular structure and converts the exterior into a gel-like matrix that slowly reabsorbs the seasoned brine back into the deepest interior of the muscle fibers. This fundamental biochemical alteration ensures that when the protein structure is subjected to the violent heat of the oil, the fibers don't tightly contract and squeeze out all their moisture. The result? A perfectly succulent, drippingly tender interior that contrasts beautifully with the dry exterior shell. And speaking of the flour, if you are using 100% standard wheat flour, your crust is doomed to become a soggy, heavy mess that slides off the meat like wet paper. You see, wheat flour is packed with gluten, specifically the proteins gliadin and glutenin. And the second gluten interacts with moisture and gets agitated, it creates a tough, elastic network that is great for chewy bread, but absolutely terrible for a light, crispy exterior. When you coat a piece of wet poultry in pure wheat flour and drop it into oil, the moisture inside the meat triggers rapid gluten development, transforming your intended crisp coating into a dense, rubbery armor plate that traps steam inside instead of letting it escape. To pull off a masterclass crunch, you have to completely sabotage that gluten network by cutting your flour with a heavy dose of cornstarch or potato starch. Oh, starch acts like a structural shield, refusing to develop gluten and absorbing almost no excess oil. This is the exact secret weapon that gives you that glass-like, shatteringly crisp pop when you take a bite. Cornstarch molecules are incredibly large and rigid. They physically block the wheat proteins from binding together into elastic chains, ensuring that the batter fries into an incredibly brittle, microscopic honeycomb structure that shatters instantly upon dental impact without retaining a single drop of unnecessary grease. Then comes the absolute make or break moment, The temperature of your cooking oil. If your oil is sitting below 300 degrees Fahrenheit, your frying pot turns into a giant sponge. The cool oil will slowly seep through the batter, saturating the meat and turning your dinner into a heavy grease-logged nightmare that will coat your mouth in pure fat. Ugh. On the flip side, if you get overconfident and let that temperature rocket past 375 degrees, you trigger a premature Maillard reaction. The outside of your chicken will flash fry into a burnt, bitter black cinder, while the inside remains completely raw and freezing cold, which is a total disaster that will leave you hungry and furious. The absolute sweet spot for open pot frying is keeping that oil locked right around 325 degrees Fahrenheit. This allows the heat to cook the meat perfectly from the inside out, while the moisture inside the bird escapes as steam, creating a literal pressure barrier that keeps the oil from invading the crust. This continuous outward flow of microscopic steam bubbles acts as a defensive shield, physically preventing the surrounding liquid fat from penetrating the delicate starch barrier. This means your food is effectively being steamed on the inside while being rapidly dehydrated and crisped on the outside. It is a delicate dance of thermodynamics where steam pressure and oil temperature must remain in a state of perfect, volatile equilibrium. But wait, the madness doesn't stop when you pull the chicken out of the bubbling oil. If you immediately plate that piping hot bird and serve it right away, you are committing a cardinal sin of cooking. When meat is exposed to intense heat, the muscle fibers violently contract, squeezing all the natural juices outward towards the surface. If you cut into it or bite it immediately, all that precious moisture will instantly flood out onto the plate, leaving you with a dry, stringy piece of meat and a soggy, ruined crust. Just like a high-end prime rib or a thick pork chop, fried chicken demands a strict period of absolute rest. Letting those golden pieces sit on a wire rack for 5 full minutes allows the heat to equalize, causing the contracted muscle fibers to relax and drink those rich juices right back into the center of the meat, ensuring every single bite is an absolute explosion of tenderness. During this critical 5-minute window, the frantic kinetic energy of the water molecules slows down, allowing them to bind once again with the relaxed protein structures, turning what would have been a puddle of lost moisture into a permanently locked-in reservoir of pure culinary perfection. Resting the chicken on a wire rack rather than a flat plate or a paper towel is also essential because it allows air to circulate entirely around the piece, preventing the escaping steam from pooling underneath and prematurely softening your hard-earned crispy bottom crust. And that brings us straight to the ultimate psychological plot twist of this crispy saga. Why does a bucket of golden poultry have the superpower to erase a terrible day and make you feel completely invincible? It turns out, the famous poet Maya Angelou wasn't exaggerating at all when she declared that the absolute best comfort food on the planet will always be greens, cornbread, and fried chicken. This combination is the holy trinity of what historians call soul food, a culinary tradition born out of pure resilience, where marginalized communities took the unwanted, toughest cuts of meat and leftover greens and used pure culinary genius to transform them into a weekly celebration of survival and family. It represents an enduring legacy of converting systemic scarcity into cultural abundance, a sensory reminder that joy can be deliberately engineered out of the most difficult circumstances through creativity and communal solidarity. Every time someone sits down to share these dishes, they are participating in a living history, honoring a bloodline of chefs who refuse to let their spirits be broken, choosing instead to express their humanity through the universal language of incredible flavor. This deep emotional connection is exactly why the character Minnie Jackson in the iconic film The Help dropped that legendary line, "Fried chicken just tends to make you feel better about life." But if you think that feeling is just pure nostalgia or a placebo effect, prepare to have your mind blown by actual human biology. Scientists have discovered that the sensory experience of eating fried chicken is a finely tuned trap for the human brain. When your teeth shatter that crispy starch-infused crust, the specific acoustic frequency of that high-volume crunch sends an instant signal to your prehistoric brainstem. In the wild, a loud crunch meant a food source was fresh, safe, and packed with vital nutrients. It was the evolutionary green light indicating that a piece of vegetation wasn't rotted or that an item of prey possessed high-density sustenance. Our ancestors didn't have refrigeration, so their ears became highly sophisticated diagnostic tools designed to detect structural freshness. When you bite into a piece of perfectly fried poultry today, you are accidentally triggering a prehistoric survival mechanism that tells your ancient subconscious that you have just secured a safe, life-sustaining resource. Combined with the high fat content of the meat, this auditory trigger forces your brain to immediately flood your central nervous system with a tidal wave of dopamine, which is the exact same chemical reward you get from winning a high-stakes bet or falling in love. The human brain is essentially an outdated piece of software running on ancient hardware that is constantly searching for high-calorie density to survive an imaginary winter. When it receives the simultaneous sensory input of an intense acoustic crunch, followed immediately by the consumption of rich lipids and concentrated sodium, it assumes you have successfully secured a massive evolutionary victory. You are biologically hardwired to feel an intense rush of pure euphoria every single time you bite into a drumstick. It's the ultimate socially acceptable over-the-counter antidepressant wrapped in a golden crispy blanket of grease. This neurological reaction is so incredibly powerful that it can temporarily override stress hormones, lower cortisol levels, and create a localized state of mental peace that few other substances can replicate safely. So how exactly does the modern world pay proper tribute to this world-changing, brain-melting dish on this glorious 6th day of July? If you want to celebrate National Fried Chicken Day like a true hardcore purist, you don't just wander into a random drive-thru and eat a soggy wing in your car while crying over your bank account. No, absolutely not. Instead, you gather a massive crew of your favorite people, pack up a giant basket, and head straight outside for a traditional backyard picnic or a chaotic park takeover. The entire process must be treated as a highly coordinated social event, a deliberate rebellion against the isolating nature of modern convenience. In an era where food is often consumed rapidly in front of glowing computer screens or while rushing through heavy highway traffic, taking the time to gather under the open sky to pass around a heavy platter of poultry is a radical act of communal joy. It forces us to slow down, to engage with one another face to face, and to participate in a shared sensory experience that spans generations. But a true American fried chicken feast is a highly strategic operation that requires the absolute perfect supporting cast of side dishes. You absolutely must line up a massive bowl of cold, creamy potato salad to slice through the heavy richness of the meat. You need a towering stack of sweet, dense cornbread straight out of a cast iron skillet, a giant mountain of slow-simmered collard greens swimming in savory pot liquor, and the massive, ice-cold watermelon sliced wide open to reset your palate after you have single-handedly obliterated half a bucket of poultry. Each component serves a precise structural purpose. The acidity of the pickles and mustard in the potato salad cuts through the lipid density. The sweetness of the cornbread counterbalances the intense salt profiles, and the deep bitterness of the greens grounds the entire experience in earthy complexity. Even the watermelon is not merely a dessert. Its massive water content and clean, crisp fructose profile act as a structural palate cleanser, sweeping away the residual oils from your tongue and preparing your taste buds for the inevitable next round of savory indulgence.
And of course, in our modern digital age, the ritual is never truly complete until you pull out your phone, snap a gloriously greasy, sun-drenched photo of your mountain of food, and blast it across the internet using the official digital rallying cry, #National Fried Chicken Day. It's a massive, collective internet celebration where millions of people simultaneously flex their lunch choices, causing nationwide delivery apps to completely crash under the sheer volume of orders. Digital infrastructure across the continent systematically buckles under the weight of pure poultry demand, as millions of algorithms struggle to process the sudden, overwhelming spike in localized traffic. Servers overheat in data centers miles away. Delivery drivers navigate chaotic city streets in a synchronized ballet of grease delivery, and social media feeds become an endless, scrollable mosaic of golden skin and shatteringly crisp textures. It's a modern digital phenomenon that turns a simple meal into a massive nationwide collective performance piece. But as you sit there in your inevitable post-lunch food coma, staring at a graveyard of bare bones and greasy napkins, you have to appreciate the sheer absurdity of it all. We started with 17th century Scottish immigrants dropping bland birds into vats of unseasoned pig fat, crossed paths with West African culinary geniuses who completely saved the flavor profile of an entire continent, moved through high-level chemistry involving gluten destruction and oil temperature management, and somehow ended up with a fast food franchise launching a chicken sandwich 15 miles into the stratosphere just because they could. It's a dish born from struggle, perfected by science, celebrated by poets, and weaponized by modern pop culture to give our brains a much-needed shot of pure happiness. Every single bite is a condensed history lesson, a molecular physics demonstration, and the neurological cheat code all happening simultaneously within the span of a single second. So tell me, are you team drumstick or team flatwing? And how many pieces can you actually demolish before your stomach begs for mercy? Drop your ultimate fried chicken hot takes and your favorite local chicken spots down in the comments below, because the grease trail stops for no one.